I'm delighted to be joined by the wonders of technology on Zoom here by former Peterborough United midfielder Helgi Daníelsson. Helgi, first and foremost, you staying safe in these troubling times?
Yeah, I'm pretty safe here. It's quite calm at the moment. We've seemed to have it under fairly good control, so I'm all right.
I wanted to talk to you about your career at Peterborough because obviously I think you came over quite young. Was it always a dream of yours to sort of play in the English league?
Yeah, of course. English football has always been number one in Iceland and the one that everyone follows and everyone has a team. And so, yeah, England would have been great, but I was desperate to go somewhere, to try and train more and improve faster. I was only 17 when I went over, but yeah, it surprised me a lot. A lot of people were a bit skeptical because they'd never heard of the club. They were in Division 3 then, so the fourth tier. But when I came there, and they were obviously the only lower league club with academy, and we were playing against. I played against Liverpool on my trial, which is my club. Played against Steven Gerrard in my first game, so he was obviously not even famous then. But yeah, I decided to jump on it when they offered me a contract, and I knew I could improve.
You say your trial game was against Steven Gerrard. Could you tell there? Did you get close to him? Did you kick him? What did you go for?
I don't really remember him that much. I remember them talking about him before the game, that he was obviously an up-and-coming player. He would have been, he's the same age as me, I think 17, 18 then. He was obviously very good, but we had a great team. We drew 2-2. It was a good game, but then obviously a year or two later, he was already well-known everywhere. But no, just to get to train every day and play against teams clubs that I knew was just a great experience for me.
Yeah, it's weird because sometimes when people go on trial, if they're in their own country, there's obviously a lot of pressure on a trial. You want to impress. It's like a job interview, I guess. Particularly when you come across from a different country to try and impress. Did you feel a little bit of pressure to try and perform, or were you someone that was always quite level-headed?
No, it was obviously I was nervous and I'd never been on trial before, and also the atmosphere and sort of the banter and everything to do with. I was I was thrown into a house with like 15 other guys in digs. We lived all together, guys from Wales, Northern Ireland, England, wherever. So it was more the culture shock. I think training went well in the games I played 2 friendlies, went fine. So I realized that I could compete with them, the football. I don't remember worrying so much then when I was playing. I think I just enjoyed it, but the culture was very, very different. But I've always wanted to, like to try new things and experience it. In worst case, I would have just flown back home and,
in terms of the language, obviously you speak perfect English now. Did you speak perfect English then?
Not perfect. It's still not perfect. I'm married to a Peterborough girl now. I've been for a long time, so I've been with her for almost 20 years now, and we have kids together. So English is almost my first language and has been, for these 20 years. But I quickly learned what I didn't know already. The sort of the swear words and a bit more. Yeah. My English was fairly good when I moved over.
Yeah, you say you're married to a Peterborough girl now. So was there a big decision? Do you stay in Peterborough or do you go back to Iceland? How did that conversation go? Did you sort of go, I'll tell you what, we've got great views and Northern Lights, etc. You've got Queen's Gate and the cathedral. How did that conversation go?
Well, when I decided to leave, I was sort of fed up with football a little bit. It was a little bit, towards the end there. I wanted to move back. I wanted to go to university, and but my wife was actually going to university in London, so I actually came on my own to Iceland, and we spent a year and a half sort of distance relationship. But then she got fed up with that, and she moved to Iceland. And she'd already visited a few times, and she liked the country. And when you're young like that, it wasn't a big decision then because it was just the 2 of us and a suitcase. Now things like that are much more complicated.
In terms of your first team experience at the football club, obviously, I think you I remember your game against Tranmere and obviously scoring twice in that game as an 18-year-old. I think you were probably drafted in for that game. I think it was a very comfortable win in the end. Do you remember much about the games that you played in, or is it all a bit of a blur?
Yeah, it is a bit of a blur, and I'm not one to revisit games and watch videos that much. I don't even remember how a game, last year, our results last year here, I don't even remember. But I remember obviously scoring 2 goals, because that was I think only league goals I scored. I scored a cup goal against Bournemouth, which was, I remember, it was a nice header from a corner, I think. But the Tranmere game was like the only sort of strong memory of a game, also because Leon scored a hat-trick and it was an evening game. I remember I was moving house, so I'd been building furniture all day, and I was, you would think you would get tired from working all day, but somehow I had more energy and sort of felt really good in that game.
That's the motto for young kids, isn't it? You see, you don't just sit on your backside and watch TV in preparation for the games. Get the flat back out.
No, but that's what I feel now. Now, I quit playing football for 3 years. When I moved back to Iceland now, I started playing again with a full-time job, and I feel better than before. So I don't know. It's strange. You try to rest as much as you can to be 100% in a game, but I remember so many times traveling and sitting on a bus or sitting in a hotel and doing nothing, and you're completely lethargic when it comes to the game. So at the moment, I would never take a day off when I have a game in the evening. I'd rather work, have my routine, work the whole day, so your sort of body is active, and I think it works better for me, at least.
Yeah, you mentioned Leon McKenzie scored a hat-trick in that game. Obviously, Leon was a prolific striker at the time. What can you remember? Because I think you played off him in that game. You sort of played as I suppose, the newfound number 10. But Leon was a striker that could pretty much do a lot.
Yeah, he was great. And he had I don't remember how many goals that year, but we obviously had good strikers. We had Andy Clark was also scoring goals for us, even though he was getting towards the last years of his career. But I think I never really played as a 10. I played in midfield, but sometimes it was split. One was offensive, one was defensive. So I think I don't remember specifically being told to be more offensive than anything, but it sort of just worked out. It was a really open game, and we had a lot of opportunities. So
yeah. What do you remember about the rest of the dressing room in terms of the players that were in there? Because it was quite a weird mix of people, weren't it? I think Jimmy Bullard was there probably at the time. I'd imagine that he was someone that kept you on your toes.
Yeah. I have probably most of my best stories are related to Jimmy, both on and off the pitch. So it's I think the atmosphere was great. The guys were great. I know it was a mix of all us sort of the youth players coming up, and then, well, maybe compared to a lot of clubs, we had more sort of youth coming through and getting the chance because we had an academy at that level. But I mean, I really enjoyed the old guys then. Some of them was extremely professional, some of them weren't, but it seemed to be on a Saturday they seemed to sort of switch it on. Some guys were never training, but they, like Andy Clark, for example, he would train on a Friday and then play Saturday and score. But no, it was great, sort of great all-round atmosphere, and Jimmy sort of lifted it to another level, I think. Not just because he was obviously great on the pitch, but he was sort of always busy, had a lot of energy, and obviously you remember some of your first interviews with him.
Yes.
Were you starting when I came, or did you start?
I started at the club in 2001, so I'm coming up 20 years next year, and speaking to obviously players that were around in that sort of time, they always mention Jimmy and then cut off. It's almost like it's a legal obligation that you can't say too much about what Jimmy did in the dressing room.
No, I'm happy to talk about it. There's nothing like that. But I mean, I'm a very sort of calm person, and I don't get into fights, and I've never been into any sort of big arguments like that. But he's the only person that I've actually tried to punch, and I missed. So we were in training, and he'd actually he's on you. He could be moaning, or he could be just sort of the banter, and I had a bad day or something, and it just got to that point that I actually just swung at him in the middle of training and completely missed, and he called me Mike Tyson for like months after that, and extremely embarrassing for me, but still a good story.
Everyone says as well that Jimmy on a night out was a nightmare. Not because what you think, he just couldn't handle his drink. He was like someone who'd had like 2 drinks and he'd be absolutely hammered.
Yeah. He was like 50 kilos. He was like the thinnest, smallest guy ever, and he was, drinking like a proper Londoner, But he just had that. I mean, he is hyperactive. I don't know if he's diagnosed or not, but he was completely hyper, which could be fun, and obviously it could go over the top. But I mean, most people still sort of laugh about it. It wasn't. I know they moaned about him. Some of the older guys probably then. He always wanted the ball, and he was hammering people for not giving him the ball and stuff like that. Even guys that have been playing for 20 years, But it was just he was competitive, and it showed that how he sort of rose quickly through the ranks after that.
Obviously, Mark Tyler was the goalkeeper, I think, during your time, and obviously he's on our coaching staff now. He's still not said that R word, the retire. He's still technically classed as a player at the age of whatever he is, 40, 41. Charles has always been described as A, having the same haircut, and B, quite a boring guy. Is that how you would sum him up?
I don't know. That's the thing, because I didn't really spend any time with him off the pitch, but they used to call him something like that, boring Tyler, especially Jimmy with, the jokes. But for me, it was just a extremely professional player, and you could see sort of just the way he walked around, handled himself. He was very confident without being, he was not arrogant at all. He was just super down to earth professional player. And I think when I came there, he'd already been in youth national teams or something like that. So you could see maybe just his height, he could have been, Premier League goalkeeper, because he was a super keeper and extremely, professional. So I wouldn't say anything negative about someone that I don't know in his personal life, but he might appear boring. Yeah.
In terms of missing home, when you were in England during that period of time, was it hard? How much did you miss your homeland?
Yeah, it was. I mean, at times I lived in digs first, and I moved around a lot. I was probably in 3 or 4 different places, and I am a bit of a sort of loner, and I have sort of different hobbies and things to a lot of the players. So I was a little bit isolated. I would spend a lot of time just at home, on the internet when it just came out, the internet, and playing guitar and listening to music and studying and doing stuff like that. So, but I wasn't probably social enough with everyone else, and until I sort of met my now wife, things changed a little bit, obviously then.
You say you play the guitar. I seem to remember you with the guitar, actually. You quite good now?
I don't play so much now. I used to be good. I was good when I was a teenager, and around that time I played a lot, but it's taking the back seat now.
In terms of international football, you obviously played quite a lot of games for Iceland, but I guess part of you thinking, well, if your career had been 10 years later, given the emergence of Iceland as a force in European football, you could have been playing at European Championships and all that kind of stuff. Are you proud of what Iceland are doing now? And when you represented Iceland, was it such a proud moment for you to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I literally retired 3 or 4 months before they qualified for the first championship, for the Euros first. So I was actually in the squad for the first few qualifiers. So I was involved in that team that went to the first Euro. So all my friends were there, but I had sort of dropped out of the national team by then. So I wasn't really, and I had sort of planned on retiring anyway. So it's frustrating to just miss it like that. But I was fortunate enough to be in the first team when Lars Lagerbäck came and took over and started changing everything. So those years were great. And in the qualifiers 2 years previous, we just lost in the playoff to Croatia. We're only one game away from qualifying in the previous tournament. So the success had already sort of started there. But yeah, it was just nice to watch and follow them, and some of my good friends were playing. So I don't have I'm not bitter about it like that, because I knew I was sort of finished internationally then.
In terms of this side you played during your international career, who was the best player you came up against?
Up against? Well, we played Portugal. You know, we played Ronaldo, and we played against Zlatan in Sweden, and we played Holland when they were really good. So they were obviously great moments. But yeah, so Ronaldo obviously the best player, I think, by far. But I was on the bench for a lot of sort of the bigger games. Didn't really get into contact with him. But no, just that extra aspect of being an international also it's just something I'm extremely happy that I got to experience. And even though I didn't play that many games, I was involved in the team for 10, 12 years overall.
Yeah. Who was your hero growing up?
Robbie Fowler was actually my one of my heroes, but Zinedine Zidane probably as well.
Yeah.
And a couple of Icelandic guys.
Yeah. In terms of when you obviously moved back home when you left Peterborough, obviously you played in a couple of leagues. Was that a good experience to sort of sample different lifestyles?
Yeah. I mean, when I left Peterborough, I just went to Iceland to play for my home club, you know, which is still the top division here, but it's still semi-pro league. But then when I got the chance a couple of years later to go to Sweden, no, it was great because I played for 3 teams in Sweden over 7 years, and the football there is obviously a lot higher level than in Iceland, and I had my best years during that time. And then, I got to play in Germany for a little bit, and Denmark and Portugal. So overall, I've had to sort of quickly adapt to different cultures and situations, but it's been, extremely rewarding, I think, to get to travel and try all that.
Yeah, and you say you retired now. You're playing football again now whilst you're doing your job. What's your current job, and how did you get involved in that?
Well, when I moved back from Peterborough, I started studying chemistry at the university here. And then when I went to Sweden, I was able to finish it just through distance learning, just sort of slowly with football, because as a football player from Iceland, it's unlikely you're going to be living off your wages and be one of them guys. So I knew I was going to have a career after football, something unrelated, and that's what I wanted to do. And then I finished my master's when I was in Portugal my last year in medicinal chemistry. So I started 2 years ago here in Iceland at the hospital, University Hospital in Reykjavik, and we make radioactive medicines or radiopharmaceuticals for cancer diagnosis. So it's pretty, for me, exciting. It's something new here in Iceland. And I'm really, really enjoying it.
I'd imagine. I mean, it's as you say, a lot of people don't make a career in terms of a lifetime career out of football unless they play at the highest level, whether that's in Iceland or even over here. You know what the wages are like at Peterborough. You're not going to get a massive amount. So no. I guess you have to plan for the future. Are you getting more reward out of the job you do now potentially than what you did as a player, or enjoyment, I suppose, the right word?
I mean, it's very different because I'm at my age now. Football. I'm playing football now as a side thing. I'm still playing at a good level here, the highest level here, but my job is my main. That's what I get paid for. Football is because I still enjoy it. But I don't know. It's hard to compare it. When you're young and you love football, it can be the best thing in the world, but it's also extremely stressful and there are big ups and downs. Having a job like this, which is interesting and stable, there are not that many ups and downs in it. So it's for your sort of mental health, it's better. And I mean, working at a hospital and providing service to cancer patients and things like that, it also gives it a little extra value that you're doing something to help people. So it's very hard to compare the two. But that's why I'm trying to do both at the moment.
And just finally, we say I'll always remember you at Peterborough, obviously, because obviously I was there, but also I remember your style of football, and also the fact that, as you say, you're probably the only Icelandic player to ever play for Peterborough. You might not look back at that time and think that was the most brilliant time for me, but because you married a girl from Peterborough, I guess throughout your life, you're always going to have some kind of affinity with the city.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I've come back so often. Now her parents have moved away from Peterborough, so she has a sister there still, but I don't get to visit as often. But I mean, I still have friends outside of football in Peterborough, and when I go back, I try and go and watch games and things like that. So I always have maybe more of a connection to Peterborough than some of the other clubs I played for. And yeah, I mean, I'll still always enjoy Peterborough. I love going back there and, you know, reminiscing. I lived in loads of different areas in Peterborough, so I know the city very well. And obviously being young there, I used to go out with the guys. So I had sort of that time in my life as a, you know, late teens, early 20s, I was there. So I obviously, yeah, I have, even though I left sort of on a bit of a downer when I moved back to Iceland, I still have mostly good memories from